Hey, everybody. It's the end of the week, but that hasn't stopped Jack and me from doing another edition of the Blind Ambition with Jack Kelly. This podcast, we are going to talk about hardcore engineers, big tech layoffs, our favorite spaceman, Elon Musk. Is that right, Jack?
I love that space man. Yes, this is hardcore. I love it. This is a hardcore. Like we could have just like it's Friday and just say, punch it out and just enjoy the weekend. But no, we're here. We're here to bring you this information to keep you updated because we're hardcore, man. We're sleeping. We're gonna sleep here and just make sure all night we're gonna do podcasting. All right, maybe
I
I'm
mean,
exaggerating.
that's exactly right. Like, Elon is out there smiling
Yeah.
somewhere, proud of us, right? And I mean, to take a step back, we've been joking about it, but truly, Elon Musk wants everyone at Twitter to be hardcore, right? He wants to make sure people are all in on what he's trying to build with Twitter 2.0. Earlier
Mhm.
this week, he sent out a midnight email um, telling all of his employees, like, we're gonna have to commit to a hardcore work culture. You're gonna have to work longer hours. It's gonna be in the office. We're gonna ship something great and make Twitter 2.0. He gave everyone a deadline by Thursday evening to say, "Hey, are you in?" And it was quite literally a form that you had to opt
Yes or
into.
no, right? That's it. Or no,
Yes
just
or
yes. It's
no.
just yes. And then if you don't say yes, you're no longer working there.
It's a no, right?
Right.
And this morning in the New York Times, we found out that 1,200 people are not hardcore at Twitter. They opted out. And
Softcore.
yes,
Yep.
and what's insane is so before Twitter had 7,500, more than 7,500 full-time employees. Of course, the layoffs brought them down 50%. So that's about 3,750. We'll call it 3,800. And now another 1,200 at least are gone. So we're now down to about two-thirds of Twitter gone within, gosh, the time span of 2 weeks,
That has to be
maybe
some sort
less
of
time.
record, right?
I mean, is that's what I was gonna ask you, Jack.
Yeah.
Like, have you seen such a large company, a public company at that? Well, now not public, but such a large kind of brand name corporation kind of shed off so many. I mean, I
You know,
imagine Wall Street, maybe.
from time to time, yeah. But to take a step back, what really puzzles me is this. I could understand and empathize. Let's say, Rick, as you and I build up this media empire, and when hire more people, that we'd want them to be really super committed, which makes sense. But what I haven't heard, and maybe I just missed it, and he did this, but Elon Musk didn't give a reason why. Like he's saying, okay, Web 3, Web 0.20 or Web 3 or whatever the case may be. But to me, and maybe I missed it, Rick, like he didn't articulate, hey, this is our big mission. This is our big plan. This is why I need you, Rick. This is why I need you, Jack. Because to me, that's what a leader does. They don't just say, I want hardcore. You know what I mean? Just throw out some term. You know what I mean? That makes it sound macho and tough, and but like at the end of like it's bullshit. It's like just a hardcore. What does it really mean? But isn't it wouldn't it make more sense if he would go to people and say, hey, listen, here's my vision, here's what I want to do, and I want you to be part of it. And Rick, this is what you do, and I need you, and I need you to do this. And if this works, here's what's going to be your career path. Same with Jack. Then people would probably buy in because I get your vision. I'm down with this. This seems really interesting. And you know what? I am hardcore because I think this could work. And it seems that you're going to tailor my compensation package and align it with, if we're able to produce and we're able to deliver. Then I don't think you would see all these people clocking out and say, I'm peacing out of here, because I think they felt like, wait, why? Like, what reasons are you giving me to stay? Does that make sense? It's just,
No,
am I
that
missing
that
something?
makes no, you're not missing. That's spot on, right? So, I mean, I'm a bit biased, right? My
Mhm.
day job is as a PR communications executive, and so when I look through Elon Musk's communication style, right, it was dead silence after he bought the company. Then his communication was basically all via Twitter, the platform itself, for you have to find out about these things in the news, right? From journalists like
Yeah.
yourself that are writing. And what ends up happening is he sent an email basically unsigned. He didn't even have the, he didn't want
I
to
didn't even
write his
notice
name to it, right?
that.
That he was going to lay people off,
Yeah.
50% in fact. And then next, what ends up happening is, um, I believe a week ago, he sends out an email to the entire staff, the remaining staff, and says Twitter is in for a rough ride. He painted this very bleak picture. He said,
Yeah.
"Hey, this company could go bankrupt. We need to quote unquote survive, right?" And I mean, now this week we have that hardcore email. I
Yeah.
mean, in his mind, he maybe he's connecting the two, but I think what is really interesting is, Elon, he's also the CEO of SpaceX. He's also the CEO of Tesla. And those company cultures within tech, they're known for being hardcore, right? Elon will sleep under his desk at the Tesla factory, right? Because they need to make more cars. And I think one thing that he's underestimating is when you're at when you're an engineer, a technologist, a professional at SpaceX or Tesla, it's very exciting, right? Tesla, you are trying to make a dent against the big car manufacturers, big oil, climate change,
Yeah.
whatever, right? There's so many things that you can buy into it. And that's meaningful, right? A lot of people there, Tesla doesn't pay the most, but a lot of people are there for that mission, that impact. Same thing with SpaceX. Like there's the cool factor, right? Like I'm a rocket scientist, right? Or I'm democratizing, you know, access to space or science, right? With Twitter, it's a known entity. It's a social media platform. It's not necessarily known as like a big one. Certainly the community, the user base, uh, has quite a lot of big hitters, but it doesn't have that same, I would say, like cachet or greater kind of social mission.
Yeah, that's a really smart observation because I wonder if that's kind of a blind spot that Musk has. Because if we're working for SpaceX or Tesla, you don't want that rocket to blow up, you know? So,
No,
like, you have to be hardcore. You know, even if you don't love Elon, even if you just your for your own personal sense of worth, if I'm working on it and I'm gonna put people up in a spacecraft, I'm going to work hard, if nothing else, because I couldn't live with myself if something went wrong and think if I just would have taken some more time and effort. Same thing with the cars. Like, remember at the very beginning, a lot of these Teslas went on fire and blew up.
right.
So same thing. Like I personally, I would take a lot of personal responsibility and be invested in it. But your point is so on target. When you're talking about a social media platform where you're just effing around a lot of the time, you don't have that. Like I wouldn't lose sleep, you know what I mean? If somebody didn't enjoy the platform as much, they're not going to lose their life. They're not going to crash a plane. They're not going to crash a car. So, like, I wonder if that's a blind spot from him. He's taking the same page of like his playbook and putting it for for the social media platform, but that doesn't really apply to building cars and rocket ships, right?
No, or sending, 280 character messages, right? I I
Right.
I mean, to his point, right? Like if you take a step back, what was the supposed instigator for Elon wanting to buy Twitter and remake it was free speech,
Mhm.
right? And so, I mean, to his credit, I'll give him that. Certainly, Twitter could be a powerful tool. It's an amplifier, right, of certain messages. Um, I'm not quite sure if it has the same kind of motivation for people as space or climate change or creating, making electric cars more affordable or accessible or what have you. I wonder if, you know, exactly to your point, he misjudged, right? Because we've also seen some news reports this morning of Elon being surprised, or Elon and his leadership team being surprised by how many people are actually opting out, right?
Yeah.
Saying, no, we're not going to be hardcore. And he's had to have meetings one on one or with several teams, like directly with Elon himself, saying, hey, I actually want you to stay. Like your work is quote unquote critical. And it's very interesting to have him kind of come in with such a huge ego, this hubris, and now almost kind of saying like, oh, actually, wait a minute, uh, I need you to stay.
Do you think it's a combination of these things, Rick, that you're the world's richest man, and you see Jeff Bezos owns the Washington Post. Yeah. So it's almost like you need all the accoutrements of being a super wealthy person. Owning a publication like Mark Benioff has, I think, Time Magazine, and
That's
you could
right.
go through a lot of other folks who bought media properties. I think doesn't Steve Jobs, wife also like own the Atlantic, I think. So it seems like they like having these media, footprints so they could self-aggrandize themselves. It's almost like the billionaire kit. You have to maybe get a new wife or a husband. You need to get a yacht. You need to own like a platform or a newspaper or magazine. And I wonder if let's say, for the sake of conversation, that yes, he wants to have free speech, and I believe that. But at the same time, I think he's human and he has an ego, and now he could say, hey, I'm controlling this whole thing. I'm controlling the narrative. And he maybe lost sight of that for like the people and making profits.
I mean, I'm not quite sure, right? So, I mean, when those other billionaires purchased or sponsored these huge media publications, I think with the exception of Rupert Murdoch, they knew that they were going to be money losing ventures, right? They, I mean, to my knowledge or my interpretation is these folks truly believe in journalism, right? And that people need to know what's going on in the community in the world that they live in. And I mean, going back to like my earlier point, it's very similar to the folks that like work at SpaceX or Tesla, I
Mhm.
imagine, right? Where you're going in and there's this higher purpose, right, that they're serving. And I truly think with Elon, he sees this. I mean, it sounds very odd, but I believe he sees this as kind of like a turnaround moment and I'm going to make a bunch of money, right? Even though he said, "Hey, I'm overpaying at 54.20."
Yeah.
He wants to make this into uh, you know, the new web 3.0 or new, super app like they have in China, right? That he's calling it X, quite literally the letter. And if you recall his history, Elon Musk, he's part of the quote unquote PayPal mafia, one of the original founders of the mega financial services company PayPal. And the original name there was X.com.
Interesting.
It's
Right, and he
almost full
just and
circle
he
for
and
him.
he, and he bought that, right? He bought that out, and even he brought in David Sachs from he was part of that PayPal mafia, right? Who
That's
brought
right.
him Jason. He wasn't part of PayPal, but I guess part of just that
The
crew.
same crew. Yeah. And so I
Rick, that's
imagine,
surprising.
right? It's almost like a full circle, like
Yeah,
this is where what I didn't wasn't able to do.
it's so interesting. It's like he had that in the back of his mind for a long time, and now it's like I can jump on it.
I mean, I wonder if he really does have the plans that
Yeah.
that he came up with back then and there. Um, and now he finally has the quite literally the platform to do so, right? He has the wealth, he has the actual technology platform, as large as Twitter. I mean, like I think Twitter 2.0 is going to be quite interesting, right? There's some reports on social media. There's trending hashtag RIP Twitter, right? There's a lot of news reports saying, oh gosh, like some of those folks that are leaving, whether they were affected by the layoffs or whether they decided to opt out and take the voluntary buyout, that severance package, they're coming from pretty important teams, right? Some of them are responsible for keeping the website, the app up. But I don't know if it's I think people don't realize that tech companies and companies are more resilient than people give them credit for.
There's another aspect too that I'm curious about, Rick, where he's talking about hardcore, right? You have to be hardcore committed. What I've seen over the years as an executive recruiter, when a company gets in trouble, the ones who usually leave are the best. So it's counter to what Elon is saying, because he's thinking that only the hardcore people are going to stay and all the lesser people are going to, the less talented are going to leave. It seems like he's trying to shake those out. At least that's my impression of how it seems to me, how it's playing out, where I've seen the opposite in businesses, where if you have an organization, whether it's Twitter or any other organization, usually, like take where you work or anyone else who's watching here works, people know, like you have the A players, the rock stars, you just know they have it, they're fast track, they're going to do great things with their career. And not only do they know it, the competing companies kind of know it, the recruiters know it. So when something goes bad, the recruiters, the headhunters, like sharks, they go in and they go after the top talent, because now they're like, they smell blood in the water. They're like, wow, we
Wow.
can get this super engineer and bring him out. So what ends up happening, I think Elon miscalculated, in that he's thinking, the ones who are the best are going to stay and they're going to be strong and hardcore and tough. I think it's just the opposite. What happens is that you're going to get all these recruiters going after them and soliciting, because even though it's a lot of layoffs, like what, 120, thousand, I don't know how your counter is going now, blind, but like it's 120,000 plus, something like that. I think you told me the last time.
Right.
And so you get the best and brightest, so you get a brain drain because they could go anywhere. And even though there are layoffs across, Silicon Valley, there's still lots of jobs open. So like they have opportunities. So they're going to leave, because they're going to, not only they're going to leave because like, hey, F you, Musk, they're probably going to leave because, hey, they're going to get a huge package to go somewhere else. So they're going to go. And then what ends up happening after that is like the second, like the B pluses, they looked at the A's who left and they go, well, this person is great and they're leaving. That's not cool. So I'm a little worried. I'm going to start updating my resume. I'm going to go on LinkedIn. I'm going to go on Blind. I'm going to kind of, hit up some recruiters, career coaches, and get out of here. The ones, and this is where it's kind of like counterintuitive, the ones who stay, and I don't, and I'm not saying this Twitter, I'm going to just say this generally, because I don't want to, come across like an ass or hurt anyone's feelings.
You're not.
Usually what happens is that the ones who stay are the ones who kind of complacent. Doesn't mean they're not good at their job or whatever, but just a little bit more complacent. They rather have the work-life balance. They, don't want to kill themselves, but they'll do a good job. Or it goes down to like, you're not that great, but you're hanging on and you're not going to leave because you know that you're not that great and you're not going to really get solicited to leave. So what ends up happening, the best and brightest are going, they're getting picked off, they're getting recruited out, they're finding, new jobs, but then you're left with the C team, which is not what he wants. Right?
I
Like
mean,
I haven't seen that analysis anywhere, but I've just seen that, dude, I've seen that play out
all the
time and
time.
time. Oh my God. Almost every single time, especially like on Wall Street where I specialize in, because you always have these, banks, investment banks and broker dealers and hedge funds, private equity that just have problems. And that's exactly, as soon as they have problems, that's what happens. It's the best
Wow.
and brightest just get poached away. And the ones, who aren't so great are just hanging on. So then you lost like the cream of the crop. It's, and I don't, like, for a brilliant guy, I think he missed this.
Did he? Now I'm going to play devil's
Okay.
advocate.
Okay. Yeah.
If you recall,
Yeah.
Elon wanted to get rid of 75%.
Right.
He only got rid of 50%, right? And so, did he plan it in such a way that, hey, there are these different levers that I can pull to get people to opt out, and then I don't have to fire them. They're quitting,
Absolutely.
right? So first we had the everyone, unless you're excellent, must work
Right.
in the office, right? Unless you're like essential or whatever, right? Or you're a star player, you have to be in the office. I'm only going to make exceptions, and it'll be personally reviewed by me if you're exceptional and essential, right? And so you Twitter before, at the height of the COVID pandemic, they were known as one of the first companies to come out and say, we're going to be remote forever,
Mm.
right?
Right. Jack Dorsey, right? Right at the beginning of the pandemic.
Exactly. And so, he reversed course on that. And I'm sure some people left because of
Yeah.
that change of policy. And then now you have this and 1,200 people gone. Like we're getting perhaps closer to that 75% of people that he wanted to cut in the first place.
Didn't he a while back? Maybe this was the beginning, or even not. Maybe this is one of his other companies where he called it like a gentleman's layoff, saying to the effect that exactly what you're pointing out, that you're not firing anybody, you're not laying them off because you don't want to give the severance, but you're just making it difficult enough so they leave and you don't have to pay them anything.
Yeah, it's one of his friends, Jason Calcanis,
Yeah.
who mentioned this idea of a quote unquote gentleman's layoff, right?
Oh, that's who said, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Um,
a gentleman's layoff.
a gentleman's layoff. But here's the thing, right? It still doesn't solve the problem of performance, like you mentioned, right? At the end, you're still left with the people that kind of have no other options, right? You have the coasters, the quiet quitters,
Mhm.
the people who rely on their employment at Twitter for their work authorization to stay in the country, right? And I'm sure
That's
those
about
those
25%, right? I
those
think.
folks are great. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if they were high, but I mean, to your point, right? If you're fabulous, you can probably go somewhere else, or you're being poached, or you're in the process of being, you know, poached. I just wonder, like, is his goal actually like, hey, I actually want the true believers, and I don't mind if I lose too many engineers because I can always pull and
Mhm.
kind of sequester people from Tesla or SpaceX. Uh, you know, is he just I wonder, is he going to just instruct any of the recruiters that are left to start recruiting people and say, hey, do you want to work for Elon? Like, do you want to build Twitter 2.0? Do you want to be known as like the rock star that, kind of saves this ship? Like maybe he really wants to get rid of all the people that don't agree with him and just keep his, true believers, his yes men, and people that are truly, aligned with his vision.
100%. I think you're exactly right. Because I recall hearing somewhere, and this might not be accurate, but I remember hearing somewhere with Kentucky Fried Chicken, with KFC,
Okay.
that when they were building out, all these franchises across the country and just going huge, what they would do if they would have like a location that just was kind of toxic, it didn't work, rather than trying to train and make it different, fire everybody and
Huh.
bringing in new staff, just as like you kind of alluded to. So rather than having the people who are kind of not, not excited about the program, people who aren't invested, people who are malcontent, people who are actually, let's be honest, a lot of these people at Twitter, they really like trying to cause damage and try to harm the brand. So in a way, maybe he's doing the same thing that KFC was doing. Just let's clean slate. Let's just get, clean the house, get the people in exactly what you're saying, get recruiters, getting in touch with people. Hey, are you aboard with, Elon Musk and his vision? And I think there's going to be a lot of people who say, yeah, I think a lot of people say, you know what? Absolutely. I'll give it a shot. And if nothing else, it'll be fun. It'll be a great ride and a great story to tell people, like, how this played out. So I think you're right. It could be he's shaking it out, trying to get rid of all the people who aren't really interested, who aren't really invested, who are saying, you know what? I don't want to kill myself working here, like not that maybe even, dislike the company or dislike Musk or like anything like that, but like, hey, I don't want to work like, around the clock every day, weekends and out. That's not for me because I can make just as much money going somewhere else, and I can have a better work life balance. And like after the pandemic, I think so many people are thinking that way. So yeah, so this way, clean a house, get rid of all these folks, and then just you have I guess, a hardcore, overusing this, a hardcore group of people who are going to remain, and then you could add to that, and then he's just kind of rebuilds it, and it'll just take some more time. But that seems to make that's probably the most logical sense, Rick. I think you hit it. I think that's just the most rational thing that's going to play out.
It's just a reset of culture,
Yeah,
right? And the thing is, I mean, maybe it's my comms hat and maybe it's my cynicism
yeah.
kicking in, but there really is no harm in doing it, right? Because two reasons, right? One is when you have someone that has such a limelight, right? He's just so famous, has such a high profile. You kind of hate him or you don't like you either hate him or you love him, and
It
that's kind
really
of
does break down, doesn't
right.
it? It does.
Yeah, and so like it's like you have all these other celebrities like Kim Kardashian. You love her, or you hate her, and the people that are gonna hate her or hate him, they're always gonna hate him, and he's fine with that, right? They have
Yeah.
thick skin and they're used to it. That's kind of the game that they play, and so there really is no kind of risk I imagine in terms of like reputational damage or employer brand damage, right? Because you already suffered that from a huge layoff, right? It's kind of baked in. You're almost at a point where you have nowhere to go but up, truly, right? Where your reputation is such in the dumps that perhaps, yeah, you need to take it a scorched earth policy, just burn everything down, and you're not losing much, and maybe the only way you can go is up.
What do you think about this, Rick? To me, it felt somehow Musk got labeled as kind of a Trump adjacent. They could put him in that category. And then once that happened, I noticed he got so much more hate. And then the same way, and Trump is one of those polarizing people, either people like love him or they just despise him. And it just feels like it's the same way with him. And you have these people who are working there or just people using the platform just have this vitriol hate for him. But then we've all seen he has, so much fanboys. I guess I don't even know. Does he have fan women? It seems like more the fan
I'm
guys, right?
sure.
Does he?
Yeah.
That are rooting for him. So I think it also is another, level of what's going on, like this kind of political level. Like, hey, you're kind of making it now, bringing it to the alt right. I'm not comfortable with this, and where's this going to go? So I wonder if some of the hate, some of the animosity, some of the like leaving is more kind of ideology too, where like I don't want to be affiliated with somebody who's going to be kind of alt right or uber conservative, and they just don't want to be labeled that, particularly in Silicon Valley and San Francisco, which is pretty woke place. Does that
I
do you
mean,
think that's something, or that's just
I think the way that I would compare the two, Musk and Trump, their similarities, I imagine, is just the way that they carry themselves,
mm,
right? Where they're both very wealthy, very successful businessmen, and they're kind of doing these things as hobbies, right? Like Trump was a billionaire. Now he's president, right? He's
right,
kind of won life. He had a supermodel wife, right?
right,
Like
right.
it's just like you're
Right,
president. You
going through
didn't
the
take your
checklist.
salary,
Right. Now I need
right?
president. I don't want, yeah,
It's
I'm not going to
it's
buy a
almost
media
like a
thing, but
hobby,
check. Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
and so with like Musk, it's the same thing, right? He knew he was probably going to lose a lot of money with Twitter, but it's almost like a project or a hobby. And I think the thing also there is when you're at that level, again, I'm gonna it's kind of like the Kim Kardashian analogy a little bit there, where people hate you and people don't
Yeah.
like you and people do love you. Um, and I think what people really struggle with is they don't mind that people hate them, right? And they're not going to change their communication style, certainly, to fit what is kind of quote unquote expected of them, right? So, Musk and Trump, they were famous for using Twitter often
Mhm.
and being unfiltered, right? And being politically incorrect and being provoking and trolling people, right? And taking advantage of their status and kind of place as a is wealthy public figures to kind of work on their own agenda, right? It's almost like the opposite of Bill Gates, right? Where
Yeah.
he's quiet, he's not much in the PR. He's just saying, I'm gonna like cure malaria. Or
Yeah.
like I'm going to have my own foundation and I'm going to, you know, how do we get, more kids to play bridge, right? Like I learned to play the card game in bridge in high school, and the teacher
Hmm.
had a grant from the Bill Gates Foundation, which is crazy, right?
Really? Wow.
How am I going to get more people of color into higher education, right? Like there's all these things that um, Bill Gates does, and he just stays out of the limelight. Jeff Bezos, he's like, no, I'm just gonna live on my yacht.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go
You
around and enjoy life.
you bring up an interesting societal issue or point is that if you look at George Bush Senior, the first George Bush, and you look at uh, other people, Jimmy Carter, people like that, they weren't antagonistic. They were mild mannered, thoughtful. Obama, another great example, very measured, very thoughtful. Whether you like him or you don't like him, you have to admit, he's very measured, would think before he say anything. Fast forward, it's like we're in a different world now. Like the people who get attention are the ones you just were talking about, the ones who poke you, who prod you, who get who say stupid things, who are over the top, right? Like even on social media, who gets the most followings? The people who are just on one side or the other, right? Who are like really whatever the case may be, whatever the side is, like they're like completely on one side, completely on the other side, and just being aggressive about it, loud about it, and they get the most attention. It's a different world now, and maybe that's what these guys hunger for. They love the attention. They love whether you hate them or love them, doesn't matter. They just want that. They just want that. I think they may get energized. They get that energy from like the hate and the love. And they're just wired differently than most people.
I mean, this is you've probably heard this cliche before, right? But if both sides hate you, you're probably doing something right.
Yeah, right, right.
Right. Right. Or like the best sale or the best
Yeah.
deal is when both parties are uncomfortable,
Yes.
right? Like that's the best price. I mean, yeah, right. Like I think Elon, Trump probably be the first person to say, like, yeah, that's fine. I'm probably on the right thing if everyone hates me, or if both sides, quote unquote, hate me, right? Um, I think the one thing that I really wonder about with Twitter is what's next, right? Can you imagine? Is this, app gonna like break down, right? Are advertisers gonna pull out? Are users gonna stop using it? I imagine because of all of this news in the last 3 weeks, there's probably so many more users checking Twitter, right? That they're gonna check Elon's profile to see what he's up to next or what's gonna change next, what the new product launch is gonna be or whatever. Um, I mean, we have the World Cup next week. That's the biggest sporting
Yeah.
event in the world. Is everyone just gonna go start tweeting, goal, and it's gonna bring it down? I mean, it's such an odd place, right? Because in one effect or one side, you're seeing kind of like Twitter breakdown, right? They're losing 65% of their staff. Like there's really no like new like kind of product innovation. Like, they did the new check mark thing. Walked it back. It seems like on one end, wow, like we're seeing this whole thing like blow up, but on the other end, right, there's still some like quantifiable like magic that's points to Twitter surviving and being successful. And so I wonder, like, how does Twitter reconcile that kind of contrast there?
It's interesting. It's almost like I think now Elon keeps saying, "Hey, we have more users than ever," but then again,
Right.
him like Trump, the bluster. You don't know, is that really true? Is it sort of true? Is it, like how you could give some, metrics, but the way you spit it, like, okay, most compared to what? Like this time of year, last time of year? What are you referring to? But he keeps saying, "Hey, most traffic." But then again, I find myself on it much more now because, like,
Gotcha.
yeah, because it's like a train wreck. I'm just looking to see what's going to happen. It's like a soap opera. What's next? Seriously, I end up spending way more time now because, like, usually I'll go on it because I could get my news really quickly there. So I really
Right.
like it, and I want to get a vibe check what's going on. But I don't, I didn't linger there that much because, got a job and a life. But lately, I'm spending time because I'm curious. Like, how is this playing out? I want to see what happens. So yeah, I think a lot of people are there, are going to stay there and look at it and want to see what's going to happen. Um, I think a lot of it's going to play how he plays this out. Like if he could rally the troops, if it's let's goes down to a smaller core group, after the smoke settles and he gets this, okay, here's the people who are here. And then I hope if I was going to be his coach, I would say, hey, now's the time you got to rally the troops. You don't want to keep whipping them. You don't want to keep beating them. You don't want to kind of scare them. You don't want to keep saying, oh, we're going to go bankruptcy. You want to just get them motivated. You want to, it's like the coach in the locker room is getting everybody kind of pumped up. So he's going to have to get everybody to get excited about their mission, what they're doing. Like spend with fewer people there, you can kind of spend more time with individuals and kind of just getting a one-on-one chat. So take a long time, but he could do it, or could he have his like J Cal and David Sachs and whoever else kind of go and meet with him too, and have that campaign to really reinvigorate it, and then all of a sudden now you get you're going on offense, and other people see it, and how he said like the best and brightest leave. Then maybe the people who Meta who are downsized, the people from Amazon downsized, they'll say, huh, maybe I should take a peek. I know somebody over Twitter. Maybe I'll send my resume. Let me take a look. And all of a sudden, you start getting some good quality people coming in because, energy attracts it. When like, think about it just in your personal life. If you're with somebody who's like optimistic and positive and fun and great ideas, you gravitate that person. But if someone's like negative and like always complaining, you're like, after a while, you just don't want to deal with it. So like we're now in this phase of everyone's complaining or whatever, but it's going to change. It'll be a vibe shift. And then once it changed, then I think you could really recruit and bring people over and kind of rejuvenate it and grow it.
I mean, I think so, right? And I like this kind of concept of the vibe shift because, within tech, certainly before the events of like this year, we'll just be generous.
Mhm.
Twitter was known as kind of the place where it's like was the retirement home for tech. It was known
So you
as
talk to me. How is it? Because I don't know. Because like you're super invested in it. I'm kind of still learning, my way around. If if I don't know, like, did these people, are they working crazy hours? Are they not? It's like, what goes on behind the curtain? Like, what do they say on Blind? Like, did they fess up and say, I'm juggling two jobs or three jobs the same, like with other companies, or like, what's up?
I don't know necessarily
Yeah,
about the, like two or three job
yeah,
moonlighting,
yeah.
but I mean, before the events of this year, it was known as a place for amazing work-life balance,
Mhm.
great perks, right? In terms of kind of what's on offer in the office. It was also well known for just being like a very kind of mental health focused workplace, right? Where it was very much like collaborative. How are you doing? You could take mental health. days off. They had no meeting days to kind of like lighten your schedule and make sure you can have some focus time. Like these are all great things. No, like I don't mean to like disparage or tease, but within the world of blind, within the world of tech, um, it's almost like night and day with Elon Musk company, right? Um,
So that makes so
in
much sense now why people have that adverse reaction, because if you're used to, they care about my mental health, they have a work-life balance, and now all of a sudden they're like, nope, here's a meeting, you got to be here at a crazy hour in the morning or at night, you have to sleep under your desk. You're like, wait, what? You could work from remote from ever. Jack Dorsey was saying, now you have to come in. You're like, wait, I got obligations. I moved to the Midwest. I can't commute. So you could see why these people are unhappy and angry, because like, wait, the former CEO gave me a promise and I took my family, moved out to wherever. And now how do I get back? What do I do? Do I got to buy a new house there? This is not fair. So it makes sense. So like if they have that, like big brother in a good way, looking after you, the maternalistic looking after you. And now you get him who, you know, could sometimes come across very crass and kind of Asperger he is, self-describes himself. So like, yeah, then it kind of makes sense why people are getting that visceral reaction, like, I'm out of here.
Yeah, it's certainly a shock, right? And
Yeah,
so, I mean, to your point about a vibe shift or a reset, I mean, it makes sense, right? Where
yeah.
perhaps you do want to purge the folks that it's like, hey, in Elon's words, he probably would say like, hey, this is work, right? And the Disneyland perks and that kind of thing has to go, and we're gonna be hardcore, right? And we're gonna
Yeah.
say, hey, uh, we're trying to build a new platform for free speech or commerce, what have you, and as a super app. Um, I need people that are really dedicated and are gonna work, not to the bone, but go
But,
above and beyond, right?
but what
They're
would
not
happen?
gonna quite quit.
But what would happen, Rick, if someone, so let's say you have a software engineer who leaves, Twitter, if they would go to Apple or Microsoft or Meta, and somebody might have hiring freezes on, but let's say they don't, and they go there, would they also then have to really put in more hours and not have that work-life balance? So they're kind of, put themselves, they might have best stayed with Twitter, then go somewhere else where now they're going to have to work just as hard, but you're starting from scratch. What
I mean,
do you think?
yeah, I think there's certainly like a culture shock no matter where you come from
Yeah.
when you join a new company, right? I think um almost infamously, like there's an issue with Google engineers when they go elsewhere because Google does so many things that are just proprietary and in-house to them. They might struggle a little bit learning new programs at another company or just doing things a new way. I've certainly worked at tech companies and startups where you have former Google employees insist on kind of this set process or
Mhm.
using a certain tool because they said, well, this is what I used at
It's the
Google.
Google way. Yeah.
This is the Google
Yeah.
way. It's almost kind of like a joke, right? But I mean, yeah, there is that little bit, right? Where there's some tech folks out there that are nervous when a new manager comes in and they're from Amazon, right? Because Amazon is well known for that like cutthroat, performance driven, kind of high risk, high pressure kind of work environment. And so, your new managers from Amazon, you might be a little nervous.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, with Twitter, I mean, the thing is, Twitter has a great reputation for having incredible talent, right? In terms of um, not only just like these hard skills, but also like the soft skills, right? And so I imagine um, that reputation will carry on wherever they go, and that same behavior and culture will also follow.
I feel bad because it would be better off if we turn back the clock a little bit and like someone like yourself would have taught, let's say, had a town hall meeting and say, hey, this is what Twitter offers, that mental health, kind of this more paternalistic attitude. Jack Dorsey would go out for his retreats in some, far off place, just, fasting and meditating for a month or whatever. But now, if you're going to leave and go to, one of the other big tech companies, are you jumping, from the pan into the fire before you make any decisions and click that button, yes or not, click it no, to really like think through, maybe I should just not make any decision, maybe just stay here until I figure out what to do. Because the severance didn't seem that great. It's only like 3 months, right?
Yes.
So it's not as if like you're giving someone a year severance. You're like, oh, I'll take it. I'll chill for like 3, 4 months and then I'll find another job. So I wonder if like Musk or his lieutenants should have taken the time to just say, okay, before you make any decisions, let's talk this through. Here's what you have if you stay at Twitter. Here's what we offer, here's what we do. Yes, we're in this pivotal time, so we're saying hardcore work harder, but think about it, we're fighting for our lives right now. And when we say bankruptcy, maybe we're saying it a little too, sloppily, but like we have to really, we're kind of rebuilding everything and kind of just talk it through. Because then I think a lot of people working there might start saying, wait, yeah, if I do try to go to some of these other places and I'm reading about, Meta laying off, Stripe laying off, just so many, huh? Maybe it's prudent to just stay put, see how this works before I kind of jump into something else. And then I'm like, I'm working just as hard and I'm the new guy or new woman. And boy, that was a dumb decision. It's surprising they didn't do that, huh?
I mean, perhaps they didn't care to do so, you know,
Yeah,
right? If you're committed to just creating a new work culture
yeah,
and you're inheriting someone else's that you just completely disagree with and it's a different philosophy, like perhaps the best thing to do is burn it down.
yeah. I could be naive
And
at times. Like I'm thinking, because I know what happens sometimes when it comes to careers. You would think people be very thoughtful and meticulous, but oftentimes, like when things get scary, people just they just react and then they regret it later. It happens all the time. Like I'll give you an example. Like I had this senior executive who uh, was a little worried because there was like a merger of companies, and at that particular time, because things kind of go in waves, it was it was a little choppy market, not a lot of opportunities out there, and I was saying, maybe just stay for a while. And for a recruiter, if I'm telling somebody to stay, I'm going to lose out on a fee. And the fees are pretty nice. They're like 20, 25% of the base annual salary. So you're talking about it could be 30, 40, 50, 60, $70,000 for a fee and more. So like,
right,
so if I'm telling somebody, hey, maybe hang tight and do it, stay, just let's see, before you act rash. Cause like you can see when people get like, oh my God, there's, take over, they're the bigger firm, they're going to let us all go. And you're not just thinking straight. And then you make a decision, you move, now you're in the new place and you're like, huh, I really, really like this job. And I just moved because I was freaked out. And now what do I do? Do I quit again? Or I just bide my time for a year? That kind of sucks. And then you get this weird thing where this can go on for a while, where then you have to interview, why did you leave this one? Why'd you leave the other one? It's bad. So it's 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 almost malpractice not to sit down with these folks and say, hey, here's what you got to start thinking about before you make a decision. But to your point, you're right. Like they don't give a shit. They're like, okay, here's what we got to do. We don't have time to be all warm and fuzzy. We got to, we're hard-nosed business people, and that's it. You're in, you're out. Let us know, which is kind of unfortunate. It would have been nicer, I think, if they kind of really had conversations where people could be thoughtful about it. And I would bet you a lot of people probably would have stayed if they really would talk to like human beings and were able to explore the different options. And maybe they would bring in recruiters and career coaches who can kind of advise what's out there, then it could have been all different. It's just, and that's what I think is troubling for a lot of people. They just seem so haphazard and not a lot of thought. And
yeah.
just because we're really smart billionaires, so like we know best, and maybe they do in some things, but in other things, like not so much.
I mean, I think that's kind of the sense that I get, right? Where Elon Musk prides himself about moving with urgency.
Mhm.
And, you have folks at Twitter, it's a huge company, and they pride themselves on being deliberative, right? How long did it take for them to move from 140 characters to 180 characters, right?
Yeah.
Like, well, like there's just all of these different things that just take quite a long time. And, Elon kind of has that sense of like, no, let's just do it. And some people, like critics, might say, hey, it's kind of like a bull in a china shop, and others would say like he's a great operator, right? I think it's very like context specific. Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why Twitter was known on Blind as kind of like the great retirement home
Yeah.
with tech.
You know what, too? It's so I guess people are wired differently. Like, for instance, if I was presiding over Twitter and you had that, with the blue check kind of fiasco, and you have somebody get the Eli Lilly, tag, and then you say free insulin, and the stock goes down whatever percentage, and everybody first was happy. Oh my God, free insulin, this is great. And then you realize that it's just someone goofing around. I would be mortified. Like, I would be so mortified if I was like the head of a company and that happened, because it gave people hope, and then you pulled the rug out from under them, and then your stock price, cratered. But like this, yeah, it's like they shrug their shoulders, whatever, right? It doesn't. It's. I guess to get to that point, you got to just have a completely different way of thinking and not let stuff bother you. Because wouldn't that kind of trouble you, like having, you know, let that happen on your watch?
uh,
No, you wouldn't be like, you would get like, yeah, whatever.
I mean, I don't know, like I hesitate because
Yeah,
my hat is as a PR person, and
yeah,
I'm naturally mortified about
yeah.
many things,
Right,
right? I am very careful about what I say because,
right.
like, the way that I see my job as a PR person is it's very much like a lawyer, right?
Mhm.
Where, you know, s- you know, you're my client no matter what, and I'm gonna go to bat for you.
Right.
And my job is all about managing risk, right? For a lawyer, it's about managing legal risk. My job is managing reputational risk. And so I can tell you, like, hey, like I would do this, I would host this all hands, I would be
Mhm.
more explicit in my internal communications, I would do them more often. Oh, when you're speaking with this reporter, I would, go over these talking points and stay away from this, you know, bridge over to this topic because we don't, whatever, right? And the thing is, my principal, my client, my, person I'm representing, that they don't necessarily always take my advice, right? I wish they
Yeah.
would more often, but it's also the same thing like a lawyer, right? Like they'll tell you like how to prepare for your case or like how to write up your contract. But at the end of the day, sometimes like a quote unquote business decision overrules and the lawyer has to play along and me, the PR person, has to play along. And I think with Elon, it's again, it's very similar to like working with a lawyer, right? Like I can explain to you all the things as long as you understand the risks and make an
Mhm.
informed decision, then I've done my job.
Yeah.
And so like if I were at Eli Lilly PR or if I were at Twitter PR and that happened, oh my gosh, I would be blue in the face, right? But then I would also have to say like, hey, what's my role, right? And what do I have to then do to react, right? If I'm Eli Lilly, I have to kind of figure out a way to sensitively say like, oh no, we're the victim of an impersonation attack, and gracefully say no, your insulin will not be free despite the excitement, and reassure those investors, right? And then on the Twitter side, you're gonna have to do some work and say like, hey, like this guy was obviously trolling, or hey, we're going to like we've learned our lesson, you know, and say, hey, this is how we're gonna improve it, and this is our timeline for doing so. Um, but I mean, it's the cards you're dealt, right?
Yeah.
I I might be rare where like I kind of like the crisis or like this like kind of thing where there's just everything is coming on new, right? This last 3 weeks has been like 3 months of news, I feel.
Well, they do
You
need a communications person because they don't have
yeah.
one. So,
No, well, he doesn't believe in it, so I
so
don't think he'd hire me.
no, I don't know. So maybe we got to make sure he sees this podcast. So maybe I say, hey, this guy Rick, he knows what he's talking
Yeah.
about. We could
Is he
use a guy,
hardcore?
you know. So, all right, as you're a sports writer, so let me ask you this: over and under. What do you think? RIP Twitter. So this is what everyone really wants to know. What do you think? Do they need all these software engineers that they're saying, or can they let go of all these engineers and still go? Would it crash? Is it going to be around on Monday? Like, what would you bet?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to take the over.
Okay.
Twitter will still survive after, let's call it a year. It will survive the World Cup. It will survive, the holidays or what have you. Because here's the thing: there are true believers, right, in Elon's mission. There are true believers in free speech. There are people that are excited about, being the person to right a ship or turn something around, right? Like these are all kind of badges that you can hang on your resume of being able to say, yes, I did that, right? Or, even as a PR person, right? Like I wouldn't mind going to Twitter because the reputation is down, but eventually it's not going to be. And I was the person that was there, right? And so I get that credit somehow, right? For
See,
saying like
yes, and that's
that
sometimes that people.
rebuild.
Yes, and sometimes people don't realize that about a career move. Sometimes when you go into a bad situation, that's like the best opportunity because that's when they really need you. Seriously, like if you go into a situation, let's say you got a call from us to be a communications person. That's great because they need you. You know what I mean? They're like, hey,
Yeah.
I know we made some dumb moves and we were just shooting from the hip. We need somebody who's measured and is careful what they say and can be calm and cool under pressure. So sometimes that's like the best time. Like people like think like, oh, it's a bad situation. I'm going to run away. Sometimes like when you have like chaos, it creates a lot of opportunity and you could shine and then you could really kind of develop your career. That's why I think too, I agree with you. I would also bet that it's going to survive and thrive. I think not only because of the platform itself, but they all have deep pockets, not only him, but all the different investors. So I think there's a vested interest, and I think there's people want to have it around, even though they'll like rag on it and complain. You know, they still like, hey, this is a place I want to go to. So I think it's going to be around, and I think for people, I think they will be able to enjoy people because they're going to also think of that, like, hey, they've lost all their software engineers. I go there, I'm a good software engineer. I can be a rock star there. And let's say from what you were saying, it's a more relaxed attitude. So maybe this person is hardcore. Like, yeah, I love work. I love spending up, being all night coding. Like that guy or woman could be like huge. You know what I mean? So I think
That's
you'll
exactly
find
right.
some people the same, like you have a certain amount of people who are just going to say, I just don't need this, Ajita, I'm going to leave. Others might say, you know what, this is opportunity. I could kind of, I'm looking at, like I would even say now for people who watch this, you go like to LinkedIn and look at like where are the people saying, put on the badges out, open to work who are like looking to leave. You go, huh, let's say you're even at like it doesn't have to be, the engineers. It could be accounting, it could be marketing, it could be sales. And you look, oh, it looks like a lot of those people left. They're going to need some sales people. I'm really good at it. Hmm. If this works, I could be like really, I could make a big move and get noticed. Same thing for accountants, for marketing people, for attorneys. So like, yeah, we talk about the engineers, but there are a whole lot of other people there. So like, I think it could draw people who see, wait, there's, there's like an empty, area there. There's a vacuum and I can get in there and I can be a rock star and do really well. And maybe I
No,
can even negotiate a great package because they need people.
I think that's exactly right, right?
Yeah.
Where you're planting a flag and saying, hey, Elon is saying, hey, this is what Twitter 2.0 is going to be like, right? There's certain companies out there where, yeah, they're happy with you if you just do your job and get close to quiet quitting. That's fine. Then there's other places where it's like, yeah, you're gonna work hard, right? I imagine in Wall Street, right? Like there's the more of the reputation of like, yeah, you're at Goldman, you're gonna work like 80 100 hour weeks, and people go
Yeah.
eyes wide open, and they know that. Uh, they're gonna go eyes wide open and know like, hey, Twitter 2.0 is not where I'm gonna go to coast.
It makes a lot of sense. So it's so true. Like Goldman had that where, they got a lot of news, but you have these young kids, 1, 2 years out of school, getting, $150 on the base, maybe another 50 in bonus, like just right out of school, which all right, so you work at 80, 100 hours. Well, like you're getting paid pretty damn well for
Right.
for like a 23-year-old, and that's just starting. So imagine when you're 33 years old. So yeah. So it's a little bit of a trade-off too, to say, hey, all right, I'll put in my dues now and then reward me later. So I think like for a lot of people who watch this, just to think it's so easy to just kind of, oh no, this is toxic, I'm running away, but to really think through, like strategically, what is the best move for me? What's my risk tolerance? How much risk do I want to take? How much, do I want, if I can make more money, this could be an opportunity. Hey, let me check out some of these things. And it doesn't cost anything to interview. It doesn't cost anything to ask a friend to, hey, make me and introduce me to a company,
Nope.
and just kind of feel out and see.
I mean, that's exactly right. Right. Like my personality is, I don't think I could work at like a place that's just like slow and
Mm.
super deliberative, right? Like a memo writing culture. I'm more of a like, hey, it's exactly like this podcast, right? It's like you came up with the idea, you pitched to me.
Right.
I thought, yeah, we could we can do this, right?
Right.
And we've 40, what is it, 40 episodes later,
Really?
here we
Wow.
are.
You
Yeah.
know what, dude? That's great because like I read somewhere, like most, like, dude, if you could get to 20 or so, most people give up. So if you get like past like 22, I forgot the number, then that's it. That's good. So I didn't realize, wow, that
Right.
flew. Damn.
Here we are at like 40 episodes, and
Damn.
behind the scenes for
Yeah.
all the people who made it this far in the episode, it was like a side conversation that we had after
Yeah.
a conversation about something else, and like, hey, like we could do this,
Yeah.
and it could be pretty lightweight, and like you just make an impact, right? And we've certainly adjusted over the few months that we've done this, right? We've changed the premise, we've invited different kinds of guests on,
Yeah.
we just try to figure it out, and I'm more like that, right? Whereas I think, if I were at another company, it would probably be like, oh, well, okay, if Rick has this idea for a podcast, like let's have him sketch out this plan and get the buy-in, and what are your
Yeah.
KPIs that you're going to
Yeah.
measure, how much is it going to cost.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, let's just do it, and if it sucks,
Yeah.
we'll either call it a day, or we'll fix it so it doesn't suck,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah, which I love it. And that's what's great about, like, not to get off it a little bit, that's what's great about this country, man. It's like you can try things, fail, try again, and it's cool. It's like
Yeah.
it's built into it. Like, hey, to take risks, to take chances, to see what works. If it doesn't work, iterate to find out like, hey, how you could do it better, which is great. It's fun. And same thing with careers. That's why I think for the people watching this, you know what? And if for people who are Twitter watching it, if unless it's too late, yeah, maybe before you just do something hasty, just really think it through, speak to people, speak to, your friends, family, look into other options. Like maybe this is the best thing to do to stay, or maybe it's not, but you just don't want to just run on pure emotion. Even though
Nope.
like we just said we started it like, well, so like I'm a hypocrite because like we said, all right, we just started this podcast in a flippant way without a lot of homework. So, but now I'm telling you for their career to do a lot of homework. I guess, yeah.
I mean, I think everything is truly like context specific, right? Where I think it's also about like where you are in life, and I think it's a good reminder for everyone to really gauge like what are you willing to do, and if you're at a job, like are you getting something out of it, right? Whether it's something to add on to your resume to be able to say, hey, I'm a PR guy that started their own podcast,
Mhm.
their own media channel, right? Or if it's something entirely different, like, are you going to learn a new skill or work on a specific project? And like, hey, you get to a point where sometimes you're working at a job, and maybe it's half a year, or maybe it's 5 years, or maybe it's 10 years, and you truly can't get anything else out of that career or out of that company or out of that opportunity. Yeah, surely move. And I think we're going to have to end it
That's
there.
good advice. I like that. That's really good advice. And that's hopefully, that people could walk away from it. It's so it's not just the, you know, Elon bad, Elon good kind of conversation, but be more contextual and just kind of give you a big picture that also kind of tailors to your career and to where you want to go in life and what to do, what to think about. So Rick, yeah, absolutely. That's perfect, man.
Yeah, I
Brilliant.
mean, maybe there's a method to his madness, right?
Yeah.
All right, thanks,
All right,
Jack, and
cool.
thanks everyone
Thanks.
for tuning
Take
in.
care. Thanks.